Hello, everyone. I'm Katy of Greenland Quilter, and I'd like to introduce Sean, who is the guy who sews. And hi, Sean. How are you doing?
G'day, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to chatting with you a little bit and answering all your questions.
I'm looking forward to putting those questions out there to you. So I would like first for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name is Sean, and I have been quilting for about 13, no, not 13 years. I'll get it right in a minute. Close to 10 years. I originally grew up in Australia. I grew up there, and then I moved to the United States about 21 years ago.
Why did you move to the United States?
I met my wife here, and
Ah,
bit, kind of like you. One of us needed to move somewhere, and it was a lot easier for me to move. With my background being in customer service, I figured it was easier for me to find work and move over here. So here I am.
okay. How old were you when you first started sewing, or did you start sewing when you were an adult?
I started as an adult. I did have home economic classes in high school because it was required curriculum in Australian schools, but I hated every moment of it. But yeah, I started sewing and quilting um, about 10 years ago, so it would have been 35.
Okay. Um, So 10 years ago, you started learning how to quilt and or quilt piecing and everything. Do you have anyone that influenced you to start in it?
Not really. I don't really. The only family member that I know of that quilted was one of my aunts, who made a bubble quilt for my sister when she was born, back in the early 90s. But that's really the only influence I would have had was that one quilt, seeing that. So, how I started quilting was I went to the State Fair of Virginia in, I think it was 2012 or 2013. I can't remember which year it was. And I saw all the beautiful quilts and I saw the fun designs and everything else. And I thought to myself, that'd be fun to try. I really would like to try it. And then apparently I mentioned it enough times over the next 3 months that my wife went out and bought my sewing machine for me for Christmas that year.
Oh, cool. As we all know, the quilting industry has been typically done by women. Have you found it a challenge to become a part of this industry in the beginning? And do you think that it has evolved over time from your perspective?
I have not found it challenging. I think the only time I've ever found it, different or what you might call challenging is if you go into a quilt store or a quilt festival with my wife, they sometimes automatically assume that it's her that's there shopping, for notions or fabric or machines or whatever it is, and not necessarily me. I sometimes have to go out and seek assistance from a sales representative rather than them automatically coming to me. But that's only on occasion. And, if that's the worst that I have to go through, that's fine. But I am noticing more and more men are coming into quilt shops. I see more and more in the stores that I go into than I did even 5 or 6 years ago. So I think it is evolving.
Yeah, you're not the first person that has mentioned that is a man doing this in this industry, talking about how when they first walk into a fabric store and their wife is spoken to, but they're not. So I can't imagine, back then that kind of might have seemed a little bit frustrating in a way, you know.
Not, it's kind of live and learn. I mean, I can't blame it because for many, 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 many years, I mean, it was almost exclusively ladies. So a lot of even now, like a lot of times the husband comes in if the wife is the one shopping, just to, you know, for whatever reason. So, I think it's, I mean, if people can ask, hey, how can I help you guys or something like that, rather than automatically assuming that would be great. But it's really not that big a deal. I mean, if that's the worst we have to deal with, there's much, much bigger fish to fry.
You're right about that. Did you have any other hobbies besides sewing during or before the time you started learning to quilt?
Yes, I do traveling. I enjoy hiking. I also enjoy a sport called disc golf, which is kind of like frisbee golf. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that at all.
No. Mm-mm.
Uh, Basically, it's like regular golf, but instead of hitting a ball, you throw a frisbee towards like a basket. and they're usually like in public parks and that sort of thing there. So it's fairly inexpensive. And I go out and play that occasionally, but not nearly as much as since I started quilting.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that sport before. Um, are any of your family members interested in making quilts or sewing since you started doing this?
My sister, my younger sister, who's 12 years younger than I am, has started quilting. She's made some beautiful quilts over time. She is not as heavily into quilting right now because she's got a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old, so her focus is on the children as they should be. But she has made some stuff in the past, and she watches the podcast and everything else like that, which is really neat. And I think once the kids get a bit older, she'll probably get back into it a little bit more. But that's pretty much it. I mean, most of my family crafts, my dad does stained glass windows. My brother drew and painted a bit. And yeah, we all just do different crafts. But I think my sister and I are really the only two quilters.
Oh, okay. What I forgot what I was going to say now. So anyway, did you start your YouTube channel at the same time you had started learning how to make quilts, or did that come afterwards?
Came afterwards. I sewing for about 7.5 years before I started the channel. And the reason I started it is my wife watches a lot of knitting podcasts.
Okay.
Kept seeing these ladies, primarily ladies, that had these weekly podcasts or bi-weekly podcasts, and they were getting stuff done. And I was getting nothing done, because I was lazy. There was, I can do it tomorrow, that sort of thing there. And I figured, okay, well, maybe I should start my own quilting podcast so I can actually get something done. And then the other reason I started was that I wanted to watch a quilting podcast, and there really wasn't any out there. So I
Okay.
figured, well, maybe if I start one, maybe some other people will say, "Hey, this looks fun. I'll do it too." And that's slowly evolving. I mean, you're seeing so many more people now coming out with podcasts. Becca has a podcast now. Martha has a podcast who you had on last week. Russ, there's so many of my friends that are now doing it, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah, some people are getting fancy equipment to make their podcast seem more well done, I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes to do their own little spin on it. I try and keep mine fairly basic because I want to get in, I want to record, edit, and get it going. So I try and keep mine fairly simple.
When you started your YouTube channel, did you have any goals to begin with? And if you did, how has that evolved?
I did plan on doing a lot of tutorials, which I have not really had the ability to do right now, but that is something I would like to focus on in the near future. The podcast has always been my staple, but doing the CottonCuts time lapses and that sort of thing there and being an ambassador for them was not something that was immediately on my radar, because when I started, I thought, I might get 10 people watching, 20 people watching. I had no expectation of having the hundreds that watch every week. I mean, it's absolutely blown me out of the water, and I just am just, yeah. What's the
Okay.
word? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just honored, and yeah.
Do you have any future goals for the channel?
Really, I mean, yes, it'd be fun to grow. It'd be fun to, like Becca said the other week on her when you interviewed her, I would love to have had that YouTube plaque for the 100,000, but that's kind of like a pipe dream. It may never happen, and if it doesn't, it's okay. Really, at the end of the day, as long as I have fun, I enjoy doing it, and the
Yeah,
viewers, videos, my job here is done.
yeah. As
That is
long,
my
yeah, that's the biggest thing is you got to be enjoying it because if you don't, you lose out on the best part of what you started it for to begin with.
Oh, absolutely. And if I ever stop enjoying it, I will come on one last time and say, thank you, everybody. It's been real. I've loved every bit of it, but now it's time for me to go. And hopefully that will never happen. But yeah, if it becomes a chore, yeah, I'm done or taking a break or something like that.
I have noticed over time while getting to know your YouTube channel that you do a lot of collaborations. How did you jump into it and did you find it easy to do to begin with? Has it evolved? If yes, explain how.
Okay, so yes, I do a lot of collabs. When I started the channel, I wanted to do the best I physically could, and to grow the channel the best I could, and learn the different tips. And I watched a lot of the like vidIQ and Channel Makers, which are two wonderful resources for learning how to, make a channel better. And one of the things that they mentioned a lot was collabs, because you, like myself as the guy who sews, has my audience pool, and you have yours, and Becca has hers, and everybody else. When you connect with other creators, you're tapping into their pool and vice versa. So the more that you collab, in theory, you should be able to gain access to more and more viewers. And so I thought that was a good way for me to get my name out there, to get, exposed to more people that way there. And then I've just really enjoyed it. Like, I love doing my lives with different people every Saturday. It gives me someone to talk to. I love the audience. I love the chat, but it's not the same as having someone to talk to while you're sitting there sewing on a Saturday morning. I have done solo lives and I can do them okay, but I'm much more comfortable when I have another person to do it with. So I've just, really evolved into it, and I love every moment of it.
Yeah, I really like when we get together as sewers, like in a Zoom or something, and I think that sewing with other people makes you feel more motivated. And I don't know, there's just something special about sewing with other people, even though we're using a Zoom or a live FaceTime or whatever, it still matters because you're still sewing with somebody.
Oh, agreed. And I hear a lot on my lives, people say, you motivate me to get up in the morning and start sewing. So yeah, having, whether it's a Zoom meeting, which I know a lot of creators offer, or even if you're just watching someone's live, I mean, yeah, I think it is motivating because you're seeing someone else do something, and you want to. Sometimes it's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, I think, in some
Yeah.
respect.
Most of us follow you, know that you are a CottonCuts puzzle mystery ambassador. How did you become an ambassador? And what was your first puzzle mystery and what was the colorway?
Okay, so let's my first puzzle mystery quilt, that was the So Sweet, which was the spring quilt of 2022, and I did the Benet colorway, and I have it here with me. It was such a fun collection of batiks, which I know you're a fan of.
Oh my goodness. Look at those colors.
Yeah, that's what drew me to it. Like, once I saw the colorway, they give you that little circle of colors.
Oh, that's beautiful, Sean.
Yeah. The top's done. I finished it, late last year. I have not quilted it yet because I am still on the search for the right backing.
You're like me. I have a couple finished and actually have several quilt tops and most of them are batiks and I'm having difficulty trying to figure out what I want to use on the backside of it for the backing. So I
Yeah.
understand how that is. Um, as an ambassador, do you think that it has helped you a lot be more I know you have said in the past that you're a little bit introverted. So has being an ambassador helped you a lot with that?
The ambassadors help with keeping up. Like, when I did the So Sweet, I was often a month behind, 2 months behind, 3 months behind. And being an ambassador, I want to keep up because, part of my duties is to, show my progress on my most social media platforms, which is primarily YouTube. And I don't want to be so far behind. And especially with these Village Green, which we're in the middle of right now, I had several people come to me and ask me for assistance, like putting the blocks together and just some tutorials. And that's kind
Yeah.
of where I'm kind of doing both the lives and the time lapse, so people can actually see how the blocks go together as well. If they're doing this, the small one along with me. If it's a large, it's a little more difficult because I'm not doing the large.
Yeah.
But how I started, I forgot to answer the first part of your question earlier, was how I got into being an ambassador. I'd considered it briefly because I'd seen it on the CottonCuts website, and they said you can go on and apply and that sort of thing there. And I'd seen, Ian's being an ambassador, and his tutorials are just absolutely
Yeah,
fantastic.
they are.
And Becca's lives when she sews them together is always a lot of fun. So I mean, I saw the fun that those two were having with it, and I just thought, you know, maybe one day when the channel grows a little bit, because I figured they needed a much larger following. But CottonCuts actually approached me earlier this year and said, "Hey, we've been watching your videos. We'd love for you to come on board as an ambassador." And like, I almost um, fell over when I read that email because like I was just so I can't believe that they want me to come on board with them. And of course, I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. You know, tell me what you need. We'll make it work." And I've just loved it ever since. I mean, they're a great little company. I know you've had the interviews with Kim. I've had the privilege of talking to Kim, and I've talked to Robin on my lives, and it's just been an absolute blast. They're a wonderful company to be associated with.
Yeah, the company itself is fantastic. I love how they're always so positive and upbeat, and her customer service, it's hands up the best one I've seen in all of this industry. It's they
Oh, for
try
sure.
to they try to, if it's fixable, they do everything they can to fix it.
Yes.
So that's what I love about them. Um, were you aware that the detectives of the PMQs had a Zoom every third Thursday of the month? Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay,
I haven't
so
made it to one yet, but I know Martha's been to a couple of them, and yeah, I think Robin and the rest of the crew go. And yeah, I really do need to make it to one of those very, very soon.
yes, you do, because there's some of us that's been doing it for a long time, and it's worth you know, I would like to see us to try to pull in more of the newer people, to help so that we can keep them motivated and help them on their first time around journey. Because we have a lot
Yes.
of new people this time that are, I'm amazed at the amount of pictures that are being posted right now because of Flat Nancy. And I think it would be a great way to help motivate the newer people to join the Zoom so that they can get to know us and we get to know them. And if they need help, we're there to help them. So yeah, you being there would be a big help.
So I really want to put on my calendar. I'll I'll let you remind me the day before or the day of, maybe the day of, because I think Martha told me about the last one. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make it, and then I got cooking dinner, and then I
Yeah.
remembered it. I was like, I've
Yeah,
missed it
because it
again.
is in the evening, and I know that conflicts with family time, but it's one Thursday a month.
Yeah, no, I'll make an appearance soon. I promise.
Okay. Um, what quilt that you have made from the past is your favorite?
That is a tough because it varies from time to time. I mean, the koala quilt that I made last year was one of my favorites. But then the Mythical Darksons I made earlier this year is also one of my favorites, and the Wizard of Oz that I'm currently working on is another one of my favorites. So, I mean, if you ask me the same question in 12 months' time,
It
I'll
might
probably
be
have a different.
different.
Yeah, but I think
um,
if you and quilt is the same question, I think that the answers will change from time to time.
do you have any future goals for making quilts, and do you have any future endeavors for the future of your YouTube channel?
Well, we touched on the future YouTube channel a little earlier, and I think, yeah, I just want to see where it takes me. Like, I'd like to see it grow and just see, what we can do. But really, at the end of the day, it's all about the viewer satisfaction. I want my viewers to come on, enjoy it, and if that means that my subscriber and my views stay the same from now until the end of time, that's okay.
Okay.
I want it to be a positive experience and an enjoyable experience for the viewers.
Can you tell us a little bit about your Discord guild so people will hear about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I have an online guild that I started back in, I believe it was April or May. I'd realized that a lot of people lived in rural areas or an area where a physical guild was not an option for them. Because a lot of people live in the country, or the times that the guilds were on were not suitable for them. And that was kind of like the same thing for me. Like, we have a couple of guilds somewhat close to me, but I still have to drive 30 to 40 minutes for it, and the times that they meet are not suitable for me.
Right.
So I figured, why don't we solve two problems at once? I'll put it out there, since I have a YouTube channel with several hundred followers, I could put it out there and see if I can get, you know, a small group together. And, you know, we have about 15 or 20 people come to each meeting. It's once a month. It's on a Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, which seems to be the best time for everybody that's involved. And we just come together. It's very low key. It's very laid back. We go through any announcements that we may have, and then we just do show and tell, because you guys get to see what I make every week on my podcast, and I love showing off what I make. But if you're not a content creator, you don't necessarily have that ability all the time.
Yeah,
So
you
I
don't have
thought
that platform.
exactly, and I mean, every quilter wants to be able to show off their work and the stuff that they've worked really hard on, and it's always better, in my opinion, to show it off to another quilter, because they get an appreciation for it that someone else that isn't a crafter or a quilter would have. So it's been a lot of fun. And then Discord, for anyone that doesn't know, is another social media platform. It's similar to Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and X, which is, you know, formerly known as Twitter, and so forth. But the thing I like about it is that there's no advertisements. It's just like an old school. It's almost like the old school chat rooms from the AOL days back in the
Yeah.
early 2000s. You just get on there. You can share your pictures. You can chat with other quilters. We have a like a little meeting room that you can jump in any time. There's usually in the evenings at least, you know, two to five people in there, and they just get in there and sew together and chat and have a good time. And it's all free. There's no charge. There's no charge for me. There's no charge for you. Everybody's welcome. Just come in, enjoy yourselves, you know, and have a good time.
I'm curious, is your wife interested in doing any quilting?
She's tried quilting, she's tried sewing, and the sewing machine and her did not agree. She's quite content. She's quite content doing her knitting.
Okay. Do you have any children?
No, but we do host foreign exchange students. We usually have them here from, you know, late August to early June. So we our children are all over Europe.
How did you come into being a host for international kids coming over?
My wife found a post on Facebook about like would have been five or 6 years ago, asking for host parents to do this, and we inquired about it. And I think we weren't able to do it that year because the schools can only take so many kids per school, and that was already filled. So we've got ourselves on the waiting list for the following year, and we've been doing and loving it ever since.
It's outstanding, Sean. We
Yeah.
here in Greenland, some Greenlandic kids get to go to the United States as in that similar program, and it's been really good for a lot of them because they get a chance to see outside of their culture. But I've noticed that even though they all go to off to school or go across the pond, they all of them end up coming back home because Greenland pulls them back. They love their country so much. But yeah. Do you want to tell us anything else about yourself or your life that you haven't shared?
I think I've covered. Think of anything, but if anyone ever has any questions, they're always more than welcome to answer. I'll answer, you know, pretty much anything.
Okay.
It's very little I won't, um, unless it's super personal. But you know, if anyone ever has any questions, they're always more than welcome to email me or leave a comment on the video, and you know, I'm happy to answer it that way.
I meant to ask you, I know that you're going to be the ambassador for the carnival. You want to tell us what colorway you're going to be doing?
I am doing bump, which is the patriotic red, white, and blue in the batiks. And I've put together Clue 1 already. I actually released my time lapse of that last week. And I did a live last week on that as well. So you can go check that out. And I love those colors. It's like it's so beautiful. The red, white, and blue come together so well. And my plan for the completed quilt on that is to donate it to Quilt of Valor once it's all said and done. Because I figured it'd be really nice for a veteran to have that once it's all
It's a
completed.
really lovely idea. I watched your video when you were making it, but I thought we would bring that up since you're an ambassador. Um, do you think in the future you'll continue to only do one each go around, or do you have goals of maybe doing more than one if it fits in within your time frame of getting things done.
Never say never, but I think at this time, I think one per PMQ would be enough for me, because I have, like, you've watched the podcast and everything else. I always have so many projects going on, and there's so many projects, so little time, and there's only so many hours in the day, because I work full time as well, and I'm a 9 to 10 months out of the year. So if I had more time, I would happily do more, but I think one per puzzle mystery quilt for right now is probably about as much as I can handle, because I want to be able to do so many other things as well. You know, I know you know this as well, but you really have to sit there and pick and choose what you do sometimes.
Yeah, I have a few UFOs myself. But you know, life gets in the way sometimes. You know, during the summer months, I'm a tourist guide, and a lot of times by the time I'm done doing 2 to 3 of the city tours, I'm wiped out, you know, and so come home and I'd rather go take a nap than sew. But there's other times when I'm motivated and I still want to sew, you know, so
Yeah.
it just depends on, you know, what's going on during that time frame. So I understand that a lot. Okay, then. Thank you for coming to let me interview you. I really appreciate it. And it was a good interview. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me to come on and, yeah, hang out with you for a little bit. And if anyone hasn't checked out my channel, please duck over and take a look and see if it's something that you like. And yeah, definitely keep supporting Katy, because I just love seeing her, start the channel and grow. And she's just done some amazing stuff, both in the quilting, and I love seeing the natural,